Hi, everybody. Welcome. Episode 39. Sports and shorts of sorts. I'm Rennie, Ren City Rickay, and we're here. Almost there, almost at 40. We're at 39, nearing the end of the 30s. This one kind of hits my age. I'm getting near there too, but what we always do, jump right into our Jersey segment. Yeah, number 39. Who are you starting with? We'll start on the gridiron with who else but Miami Dolphins legend Larry Zonka. The Zonk, he went to Syracuse and started off as a middle linebacker. Like, he's a big dude before being moved to fullback. And he put up huge rushing numbers at Syracuse, breaking records by Ernie Davis and Jim Brown. If you know running backs, those are some pretty big names. His play at Syracuse would have him getting drafted 8th overall by the Dolphins, but it was a rough start to start Zonka's career. Fifth game of the season, he was knocked out after suffering a concussion, having his head smashed into the ground. Then a few games later, he'd get another concussion, as well as a ruptured eardrum and broken nose. So it was said legendary coach Don Shula came in and had to tell him how to run with the ball. Like Zonka would just head down, run like that, and he's like, "No, lead with your forearms." So if Shula hadn't interfered there, who knows if Zonka he became a great runner, but if he hadn't showed him, he might not even fucking survived. He ran pretty wild, but those adjustments would help him get to 5 Pro Bowls, 3 All-Pros, 2 Super Bowls, including that big one in '72 with the undefeated Dolphins, the only team to go undefeated throughout the season and win the Super Bowl. Remember in 2007, the Patriots were undefeated all season, but lost to the Giants with that David Tyree catch in the Super Bowl. So each year, Sonka and the remaining players from that team pop a champagne bottle every time a team, the last team left suffers their first loss. This year was week 6 when the 49ers and Eagles both lost. So yeah, it's pretty wild that, yeah, Zonka and his team would jump ship to the new World Football League, but that league was in financial trouble, and Zonka would return to the NFL to play with the Giants, but there he'd get injured and blame the Giants turf, so not a very good time there. Except he was on the field for the miracle at the Meadowlands when the Giants were up 17-12 with 30 seconds to go, and Bob Gibson asked Piskeric to hand the ball to Zonka to run the clock out. The handoff was botched, and Eagles DB Herm, you play to win the game. Edwards picked it up and ran it back for a touchdown. A memorable play that everybody remembers. Like, now you can just kneel it, but you couldn't always kneel it, so he just went to hand it off, and the rest is history. But yeah, he'd go back to the Dolphins after that fiasco. He got 12 touchdowns, win comeback player of the year. His 39's retired by the Dolphins and Syracuse University. He's one of only 3 Dolphins to have that honor. He's also in the College and Pro Football Hall of Fame. So yeah, not. I thought there'd be more Dolphins with retired jerseys, but apparently not. But sticking with running backs in the NFL, next mention is Steven Jackson. Not the basketball player, but the football player. They don't make many backs like him anymore. He was a workhorse in the day of workhorses. The guy, give him 20, 25 times a game, and he'd be one of those guys just getting better and better as the game went on. By the fourth quarter, no one wants to fucking tackle the guy. But yeah, he'd make 3 Pro Bowls, 2 All-Pros on some pretty bad Rams teams, to be fair, but he was the offense. Teams knew that, and he still put up big numbers. So he'd suit up for the Falcons and Patriots as well, but he'd always be remembered as a Ram to most, I think. He's the Rams franchise leader in rushing, tied with Emmitt Smith for most consecutive 4 rushing touchdowns at 11. So Steven Jackson sits 18th in the all-time rushing list with 11,438 yards. Said he chose the number 39 because that's how many books there are in the Old Testament. So there you go. Next player to wear number 39, former defensive back Ray Crockett, most known for his time as the Denver Broncos, where he won two Super Bowls on those John Elway teams. He also played with the Lions and the Chiefs, but he did make 1 All-Pro in his career with the Lions, and he's a member of the 50th anniversary team in the Baylor Athletic Hall of Fame for his play at that university. Last NFL mention is one in the league right now. I'm talking Minka Fitzpatrick, or Fitzmagic to some. I know Ryan Fitzpatrick, some call him Fitzmagic, but that's who I kind of thought was Fitzmagic. But Minka Fitzpatrick, he's been a beast since coming to the league, the 11th overall pick in 2018. He was drafted by the Dolphins, but that team was not the same team they are right now, so he had requested a trade. Excuse me. And yeah, that's kind of worked out for them. He's done pretty well in Pittsburgh and Miami. He's looking great now, so it worked out. Fitzpatrick's made 3 Pro Bowls, 3 All-Pros. He co-led the league in interceptions last season with 6. He was a beast at Alabama. Member 2 national championship teams there. In 2017, he was one of the best players in the country, winning the Chuck Bednarik Award, which is the best defensive player in college, and the Jim Thorpe Award, which is the best defensive back. As long as he can stay healthy, he's got a pretty good trajectory for a really good career there. Leaving the gridiron for the baseball park. First, number 39, I'll mention is Dave Parker, longtime Pittsburgh Pirate. He also suited up for the Reds, Athletics, Brewers, Angels, and Blue Jays, but he'd make 7 All-Star games, winning 3 Gold Gloves early in his career, 3 Silver Sluggers later in his career. He won the 78 NL MVP, and he was on the World Series winning team the following season. And he'd also be a member of the 1989 Athletics title-winning team. He's in the Pirates and Reds Hall of Fame, but it's weird. He's not in the Baseball Hall of Fame. And despite winning the 78 NL MVP, usually if you have an MVP, that usually gets you into the Hall of Fame. So, yeah, I don't know if he's getting in now. It's been a while, but we'll see. Next baller I'll mention is way before my time, but deserves acknowledgement. Ray Campanella. He was of mixed race, being of an African-American mother and Italian immigrant of a father, and because of this, he was prohibited to play in the MLB. They can only let him play in the Negro Leagues with the Washington Elite Giants, who would eventually move to Baltimore, but yeah, it was crazy, like, because he was mixed race, he couldn't play, I guess, and he was a star in the Negro Leagues, winning the National League batting title in 45. There'd also be a spat with him and one of the owners there, so we'd play in the Mexican League, and then he'd go play in the new Venezuelan Professional League, and then a year after Jackie Robinson broke the color barrier in MLB, Campanella would join him in the Dodgers minor league team before getting called up, and then he'd show a larger audience what he was capable of, what he should have been capable of. But segregation back then, it's crazy to think of, like, this isn't that long ago, but yeah, during his time in the MLB, he'd won 3 NL MVPs. A member of the 1955 World Series Brooklyn Dodgers winning team who beat the New York Yankees. His number 39's retired with the Dodgers franchise, and he is in the Hall of Fame. But think of all those years wasted. He couldn't be in the MLB. It's crazy. But next major leaguer I'll mention, Mike Witt. Played most of his career with, they were then called the California Angels. Spent a few seasons with the Yankees, making 2 All-Star games as an Angel. He is part of some exclusive history as he threw the 11th perfect game in MLB history the last day of the season. And there's only been 24 times a perfect game has been done, so to be part of that history is pretty cool. He was also part of a combined no-hitter in 1990. But yeah, like I said, he ended up going to the Yankees later in his career where he suffered his first real major injury, and he was never the same after that. He's in the Angels Hall of Fame. But that's about it. Last baseball player I'll mention is a current one. I just don't know where he's going to be playing right now. I'm talking about Kevin Kiermaier. He suited up for the Blue Jays last season on a 1-year deal. It's reported he's looking to join a team that has natural grass, so we'll see. But before coming to Toronto, he spent his entirety of his career with the Tampa Bay Rays, and he's one of the best defending outfielders in the game. He's very exciting to watch with the Blue Jays. I was hoping they'd keep him, but if he has a desire to go, it's kind of tough titties there. But yeah, he's got 3 Gold Gloves to his name, and yeah, we'll see where he ends up next season. Leaving the baseball diamond for the hockey rink, first person I'll mention is one of the best goaltenders of his generation. I'm talking about the Dominator, Dominic Hasek. He started his career in Chicago. I didn't even realize that back in Belfort. But he'd play sporadically, getting some exposure in the 92 Stanley Cup Finals after Belfort allowed 2 goals on 4 shots and was pulled. And the Sabres liked what they saw in that little brief appearance so much that they traded for Hasek the next season. And as a Sabre, Hasek would show what he was capable of in the starting role. Winning an outrageous 6 Vezina trophies, tying him for second all time, one behind leader Jacques Plante. And in 97 and 98, Hasek won the Hart Trophy and Lester B. Pearson Award to go along his Vezina trophies. Like, dominance at that position. It's crazy. He wouldn't win a title in Buffalo. He'd get close, but they'd lose to the Stars. Excuse me. He finally got one as a member of the Detroit Red Wings when he won one in 2002 and again in 2008. He holds a lot of the records, though, with the Sabres, and he sits in pretty good company on other records, like first in career save percentage, second on the list for most games by a European goaltender, sixth in shutouts, seventh in lowest goals against average, 11th all-time in wins. And, oh, yeah, he won the gold medal with Czech Republic in the 1998 inaugural Olympic Games, and a bronze medal in Turin at those games. So he's a member of the Hockey Hall of Fame, as well as the Czech Hall of Fame, the International Hockey Hall of Fame. His butterfly style was mocked a lot, and, a lot of people compared it to a flopping fish, but it was effective. Sticking with goalies, next number 39, Rick DiPietro. He was number 1 overall pick by the Islanders and was supposed to be the face of the franchise. So much that Mike Milbury shipped off some guy named Roberto Luongo. You might have heard of him, just so DiPietro could have the job. I mean, injuries hit him early on. You can't really blame injuries on anyone. But yeah, the team barely won. In 2006, they gave him a 15-year, $67.5 million deal. 15-year, which is pretty wild. He'd only make one All-Star game. He just had problems staying on the ice. Injuries did their toll. The later parts of his career, people called him Rickety DiPietro. Kind of harsh, but that's the way she goes. But yeah, these injuries could have denied what could have been a really, really good career there. Last hockey mention, current one, San Jose Sharks center Logan Couture from Guelph, Ontario. He was a beast the moment he stepped onto the ice. He owns the Sharks record for most goals by a rookie, and he has the record for most road game-winning goals as a rookie. First Shark scored 30 goals in his first 2 seasons, and he led the 2016 Stanley Cup playoffs in points, even though they did lose to the Penguins in the final. He is currently out with injury, but hoping to get back in that lineup soon here. Going to basketball, it was a struggle. I'm not gonna lie. 39 is not popular in the NBA. I could go with one, and I picked him for the number 12 jersey mentions, but like I said, it was slim pickings. Number 39, Dwight Howard. He rocked it for 2 seasons in LA and 1 in Philly, and that was it. That's it for jerseys in the NBA. So if you want to pave your road in the NBA on an ungiven number, 39 seems to be open there. But yeah, going to the week of sports. Time machine to last Monday, the way that we would end up week 12, you'd have Bears and Vikings, and this was not a good one unless you like field goals. Cairo Santos would hit 4. Astronaut Josh Dobbs would be throwing the ball to another planet, throwing for 4 picks. Not a very good game. The Bears would end up winning 12-10, and it said the Vikings are unsure of which quarterback they're going to go with after their bye week here. And then, before that game, I guess, you had Frank Reich, coach of the Panthers, getting fired. He was 1-10, and this is the second straight season Reich's getting fired in the middle of the year. Remember last season, he's coaching the Colts, and he was 3-5-1, and they got canned. But, yeah, he took over the play calling a few weeks ago, and it did not change, so he's been let go. I guess Josh McCown and assistant coach Dave Staley, they're also let go. Chris Tabor, former special teams coordinator, he's stepping in to coach it. Hopefully this can change things around. I mean, they had a pretty good coach in Steve Wilkes last year. He was a good interim. They just let him go to be on one of the best defenses in San Francisco, but they could have had it settled. But, hindsight's 2020. Going to games on Sunday, we had some pretty wild ones here. You had Colts and Titans. Derrick Henry started it with some scoring. Gardner Minshew would launch a deep one. Alec Pierce got his first touchdown of the year. Derrick Henry would get another one. He would get knocked out of the game, though, with injury, which was unfortunate because he was having a really good game here. But, yeah, you'd have a pretty wild play with Minshew scoring a touchdown, and then they'd go for 2, and he would get picked off, return the other way, a reverse 2. It was weird because the Colts would block this punt, return it for a touchdown. They're all pumped up. They go for 2, intercepted all the way. Suddenly it's a 3-point game. Just ridiculous. And then the Colts would sneak in another rusher when the Titans went to punt again. Just right off the end. We saw New England do it earlier in the year. And he'd block the punt, and in the process, just destroy punter Ryan Stonehouse's leg. He'd have to leave the game. And Yeah. Like I said, you'd have Derrick Henry already out. You'd have the punter out now. Will Levis would hit DeAndre Hopkins on a touchdown pass, and you're like, all right, Titans are about to take the lead here. Nick Folk would miss the extra point. You're like, oh my God, what is happening? And Nick Folk was doing double duty because he was punting now. But yeah, this game would go to overtime, and backup running back Spears, he was doing good for the Titans, helped getting them in the field goal range, and Folk would hit this one, putting the Titans up. But then the Colts, they had a chance to answer in overtime. Minshew would hit Pierce going right down the sideline. He'd get knocked out inside the 5. And from there, Minshew would hit Pittman for a walk-off touchdown. Big win for the Colts, moving that into 7-5. And Minshew mania is real, yo. You had Falcons and the Jets. This one wasn't a spectacular one by any mean. The Jets would score the best way they know how, through their defense. Quinton Williams would bust through the line and tackle Bijan Robinson in the end zone for a safety. And the Falcons would eventually score a touchdown when Ritter would hit Michael Pruitt for a touchdown pass. And yeah, you'd have a weird 10-5 scoreline at the break. And the Jets pulled Tim Boyle. It was 13-8. They're trying to have a hero. They put Trevor Siemian. He was no hero. He had the same result as Zach Wilson and Tim Boyle. Not a good look for the Jets. They drop another one, losing 13-8. Real struggle for them out there. Lions and Saints. This one was a pretty interesting game. Lions had a great start. You have Montgomery running one in. Derek Carr looking for his tight end. It would pop up in the air, turn into an interception. Laporta would get his touchdown. And then the third touchdown of Goff in the half, hitting Amon-Ra St. Brown. You're like, man, this is getting ridiculous. Then the Saints started waking up a bit. Carr would hit Jimmy Graham for a touchdown. Then Alvin Kamara would get a touchdown. Taysom Hill would get a touchdown. You'd have a game here. Suddenly, Derek Carr would be trying to bring the Saints back in. He'd get smashed, fumbling the ball, getting taken out of the game. Lions get the ball, give it to Jameson Williams, who has another touchdown. They wouldn't get the 2-point conversion. And like I said, Jameis Winston was in the game at this point. He tossed one up to Chris Olave. It looked like it was going to get picked, but it bounced off defender's hands right up in the air to Olave, who would bring it in for the score. And or bring it near the end zone where Kamara would get his second touchdown. So yeah, you'd have it 33-28 with half a quarter to be played, and that's just where it would end. 33-28. Big win for the Lions on the road. Looked like they were going to give away a big lead, but they held on. And there was a crazy scene in this one when Kamara was taken out of bounds on one of the plays. He took out one of the linesmen, like the guys moving the sticks, and his leg, you could see it was visibly broken. And he's screaming, like the cameraman's just like, dude, let me see what's going on. Oh my God. And then they quickly went off him. But yeah, not a good look. And Alvin Kamara's like, what, dude? Do I do anything? It was messed up, man. Broncos and Texans. This was a big game with some teams that are surprising people as of late. And yeah, you'd have Denver getting a big personal foul, setting up a Dameon Pierce touchdown run, and putting the Texans ahead in there. But bad news would come on that score. Tank Dell, the rookie sensation who's been really meshing with CJ Stroud, was carted off with a leg injury. Then they announced it was a fractured fibula, and Tank Dell will miss the rest of the season. Brutal to see. Like I said, he was having a great season. Yeah, just a bummer. Hate injuries. The Broncos were really struggling offensively. Then suddenly they'd wake up. Russell Wilson would hit Cortland Sutton for a big touchdown to bring him in the game. Texans would intercept Russell Wilson and convert on the other end when C.J. Stroud would hit a very wide open Nico Collins for the touchdown. But yeah, Broncos, they've been hot lately. They'd move right down the field before Russ would sneak in. And yeah, then Russ would convert on a fourth down late, leading up the 3rd and goal. He'd be running around back there and went to throw it up to his tight end, but Jimmy Ward made the pick, sealed the win for the Texans. C.J. Stroud, he just wins big games, and he's a rookie. Now to a game that had a scoreline of like a 1950s boat. I need a little sip there. Chargers and Patriots. And it wasn't a good start for the Patriots. Their running back and pretty much their only offense, Ramondre Stevenson, would have to leave the game. Didn't look good. Chargers would get 2 field goals before halftime, and there's your scoring. 6-0. A whopping 6-0. Hopefully you didn't have a lot of fantasy players in that game. Yeah, another abysmal performance by the Patriots. Like you can't even blame the defense. Their defense has been playing really well. The last three games the Patriots have lost were by 10, 10, and 6. You can't put that on the defense. This offense is yikes. It is disastrous, really, in New England. You Cardinals and Steelers. This was an interesting one. After some field goals were exchanged, you'd have the Kyler Murray hitting Trey McBride for a score. And yeah, McBride looked really good in this game. It was announced not too long ago the Cardinals parted ways with Zach Ertz, and this I think it was addition by subtraction here. Ertz is going to go look for a title contender and opens up McBride to get even more touches. But yeah, it was wild. Coming into the second half, you'd have a 30-minute weather delay, which kept everyone in the locker room, and then as people were coming out, it was reported Kenny Pickett would be out for the rest of the game, and Mitch Trubisky would step in. Not a good start as he'd fumble a snap, and the Cardinals would get down to the one where James Conner would punch it in, and then the skies would open up again. Huge storm, so that it would be the second weather delay of the game. And then you'd finally get back after the second delay, and the Cardinals just kept rolling. James Conner would get another touchdown against his former team and place where he went to college, and he's got his roots in Pennsylvania there. Deontay Johnson would get a touchdown from Trubisky to, get their only touchdown of the game, but big win for the Cardinals going into Pittsburgh and taking that one. Dolphins and Commanders, this one was ugly. The Dolphins were scoring big, a 60-yard touchdown pass from Tua to Tyreek. You'd have one over 40 or 78 yards, sorry. So they were scoring big on this one. You'd have a pick six by Van Ginkel. Shane was getting more touches. Now that he was back, he'd get 2 touchdowns in the game. Raheem Mostert got one. It was just a thorough beatdown, 45-15. The Dolphins, the Commanders had no chance in that one. It was ugly. Panthers and Buccaneers. You had the Coach Tabor making his debut for the Panthers, and they were in this one. Tampa would jump out at them when Rashad White would open the scoring, and then you wouldn't get really any other touchdowns until the second half when Sherwood Park, Alberta's Chuba Hubbard would get a touchdown. Baker Mayfield would hit Mike Evans on a 75-yard touchdown play. And throughout the game, Mike Evans would get over 1,000 yards again for the season, 10th year in a row. He's been in the league 10 years, so each year in the league, he's got 1,000 yards. Only person to start their career like that. Amazing consistency for him. But yeah, Godwin would get a score, and then the Panthers would get another one from Hubbard, his second of the day, and they'd convert the 2-point conversion, but that's as close as they'd get. Bucks get the big win. Chris Tabor continues to lose, the Panthers continue to lose even with Chris Tabor. You have 49ers Eagles. Everyone was hyping this up. Game of the week, rematch of last year's NFC Conference title game. And yeah, there was some shit going down. The Eagles would go ahead off a few field goals, but the 49ers would start hitting touchdowns. Purdy would hit Ayuk, and then Christian McCaffrey would get one just before halftime. Then after halftime, Deebo Samuel would run one in to kind of make the game really starting to get out of hand. And then, speaking of out of hand, Dre Greenlaw would tackle Devontae Smith. He'd kind of slam him down out of bounds. It's prompted a little kerfluffle. A flag got thrown in the air. And then Greenlaw got in the face of this huge dude on the sideline who we learned is Big Dom DeSandro, member of the security personnel for the Eagles. But yeah, they were up in each other's grill. Greenlaw put a little fist that kind of brushed his face and went next to his... It was more of a boop than a punch. But yeah, he got ejected for that because you can't throw punches in the NFL. Kyle Shanahan was losing his mind on the other end, the coach of the 49ers, and that Big Dom did get ejected. He was getting a standing O. This big Italian dude in Philly just getting the love. And I mean, that's a pretty good trade-off for the Eagles. I mean, you lose one of your security guys, and San Francisco loses one of their better defenders, but yeah, it kind of motivated each team a little bit. The Eagles would go down the field, and Jalen Hurts would do his the tush push, get in there. But it looked like the 49ers were pumped up by this, too. They'd respond with a 48-yard touchdown pass from Purdy to Deebo. He'd catch it short and just bust it loose and just bust it and go all the way down for a touchdown. Jennings, the receiver, would get a touchdown for the 49ers. Jalen Hurts would leave briefly, have to get concussion checked out, I guess. He'd come back and hit Devontae Smith for a touchdown. Well, yeah, the 49ers would ice it when Debo busted another long one, a 46-yarder to really ice the game. Debo said last year if Purdy wasn't hurt, they would have crushed the Eagles. Maybe he was on to something because they crushed shit out of them this game. Browns and Rams. Joe Flacco would get the start for the Browns. Tell me if you had that on your NFL bingo this year. And the opening drive, Flacco looked good, putting Cleveland up early. And then the Rams would answer when Stafford would hit Puka Nakua, and a pinpoint throw, and Nakua would run it 70 yards. He is quick. Put the Rams ahead. We'd have a tied game going late in the third quarter when Stafford would hit Demarcus Robinson for his first touchdown as a Ram. And Joe Flacco would answer, go right down the field to Harrison Bryant for a touchdown. But in Browns fashion, Hopkins would miss the extra point, and then the Browns would get the ball back, and Flacco would go full hero mode and throw a terrible pick, which would lead to another Rams touchdown, this one from Cooper Kupp. The Rams would score again with Kyron Williams, and they'd cap off the day with a safety. So a close game turned really ugly late, and the Rams pick up a big home win, while the Browns, I don't know, they'll have to figure out what they want to do going forward at quarterback. I mean, Flacco looked good early on, but that interception, that changed the game very much negatively for them. The nightcap in the NFL is a Sunday nighter in Lambeau Field. My Packers hosting defending champion Kansas City Chiefs, and we go off to a great start. Jordan Love would hit Ben Sims on the opening drive, put us ahead. Chiefs would get a field goal. We'd go take your field goals and shove them. We'd hit Christian Watson. Jordan Love's second touchdown of the game. Early in the second half, Isaiah Pacheco would punch one in. Emphasize punch with Pacheco. We'll get back to that. They wouldn't get the 2-point conversion, so it would be a 2-point game, and the Packers would just answer that with Jordan Love's third touchdown of the game, hitting Watson for his second. And KC would answer again, as KC does, when Noah Gray would score. 2 Packers field goals later, and we have an 8-point game with 1:09 left. Patrick Mahomes getting the ball. I think you know what happens here, but there was a series of bad calls on this drive. One play, you had Mahomes running for extra yards, getting the first down, and Jonathan Simone Biles Owens would hit him out of bounds, and they'd call a 15-yarder. Then you check the replay. Mahomes wasn't out yet. He was trying to get a first down. So bad call there. Then the Chiefs would convert a first down. Rashee Rice would look like he was down. But the ball came out, and they'd allow it to play, and the Packers would score. I mean, it looked obvious. They didn't have to review it. They did one of those, instant reviews or whatever to check. Or no, that one they did actually review it. And while they were reviewing it, there was also a flag. The pylon cam picked it up actually nice. Pacheco, the running back, who I mentioned a punch earlier, threw a punch at a Packer, and it was caught right on the pylon cam there. And you can't throw a punch, as we know in the Big Dom story earlier. So yeah, he was ejected, and that wasn't it for the bad calls. Mahomes went deep to former Packer Marquez Valdez-Scantling, and it was blatant pass interference. I'm a Packer fan. I know it was pass interference. I'm looking for the flag. I'm like, okay, we're not calling that? All right. But it was pretty bad. Everyone's like, I don't know how that wasn't called. And then it would come down to a Hail Mary, and Mahomes easily get it to the end zone from there. And they show the replay as Travis Kelce's going to jump up. 2-hand push right in his back, so he goes to the side. But again, not called. They say there's a little more physicality on a Hail Mary, but yikes. Huge calls missed both ways, mostly for the Chiefs. But hey, you know what? We'll take it. Big home win, starting the playoff run. I believe in love. I believe in a thing called love. He's my quarterback. I want him to do well. KC fans probably pissed about that, deservedly so. But hey, tough titties, right? Monday Nighter is the last one left. We got the Bengals visiting the Jaguars. This would be a hyped-up Burrow-Lawrence matchup, but I don't know if Jake Browning brings that same aura that Joe Burrow does. No offense, Browning. But I'm thinking the Jaguars should take care of that to wrap up the NFL week. Go to college, NCAA football. You had some wild conference games. Liberty stayed undefeated on the season, beating New Mexico State for the USA Conference. What a send-out for the Pac-12, eh? Championship game featured Oregon and Washington, and it was a dandy. The Huskies would jump up to a big lead, but Bo Nix and Oregon would storm back, scoring 21 straight points to go ahead in the third quarter. Huskies would wake up in the fourth, though. Dylan Johnson's running and clutch throw by Michael Penix Jr. Washington would take the lead again for good, winning the Pac-12 championship and staying undefeated along the way. Good way to send it out there. It was a lot of cool memories in the Pac-12. It's a bummer it's going out like this. A lot of history there. Texas would beat down on Oklahoma State to win the Big 12 championship. Quinn Ewers had a hell of a game, 450 yards, 4 touchdowns. Miami, Ohio would surprise Toledo for the MAC championship. SMU would surprise Tulane to win the AAC. Michigan obliterated Iowa for the Big Ten crown. Florida State undefeated by beating Louisville in their ACC championship. Biggest game of them all, the SEC championship between undefeated #1 Georgia and their rivals #8 Alabama. Georgia, 29-game winning streak. You know, they were going in there and they lose. Alabama would surprise them, giving Georgia their first loss since the SEC championship game in 2021. This is not what the committee wanted because this absolutely fucked up shit for the playoffs. Excuse me. They announced who the top 4 teams would be and who would be involved in the playoffs. Some were wondering if there wouldn't be an SEC team now because Alabama upset Georgia, and Alabama already has a loss in the season to Texas, but the NCAA would not have any of that. They need SEC in there. So you'd have Michigan at 1, Washington at 2, Texas at 3, and Alabama at 4. Excuse me. Michigan will take on Alabama. Washington will take on Texas. You got a feel for Florida State. They went undefeated on the season in a power conference in the ACC, but they lost their starting quarterback, Jordan Travis, back in November 18th, and I guess the committee did not deem them good enough without their starter. It's weird, all these factors they have coming in, but man, you got to feel for the Seminoles. Travis released a heartfelt statement to the Seminoles, just wishing he could have got hurt earlier in the season so the committee could see how the team was without him. But yeah, Alabama, they slither right into that party, which should make it an interesting playoff, but you got to feel for Florida State. The coach is devastated. It makes you wonder, what's the point of these games? You play in a power conference, you go undefeated, but you're missing your quarterback, so you're deemed garbage. It's rough. But these semifinals, or Rose Bowl and Sugar Bowl, will take place on New Year's Day on January 1st. You'll have tons of bowls, so many bowls, and there are more bowls than a Snoop Dogg session between now and then. But next year there will be a 12-team playoff system, so this shouldn't happen next year. Florida State probably wishes it was this year, but regardless, those are our teams, and that's our playoff. And yeah, some college football wrapping up here. Champions League. We had some Champions League return midweek. It was match day 5. So there is only one game left after this one. And yeah, Newcastle looked to get a monumental win in the French capital, but a stoppage time handball would change that. It wasn't initially called, but stoppage time, or VAR would come in and make the call. Kylian Mbappe would go step to the spot, score, secure the draw for PSG. Sticking with that group, Dortmund would give up an early penalty to host AC Milan. Olivier Giroud would get stopped, though, by Kobel, and that seemed to inspire the German side. Minutes later, they'd get their own penalty, and Marco Reus would score, and they'd add another 2 as they'd go into Italy and win 3-1. Porto would go ahead in the first half against Barcelona, but then the Catalan side would equalize minutes later through João Felix, and in the second half they'd go up for good, taking that victory. Man City would host Red Bull Leipzig, and the German side would be up 2-0 after 33 minutes by 2 goals by Luis Openda. The second half, Man City woke up, and Erling Haaland would score another one. Phil Foden would follow him, and Julian Alvarez would get the winner in the 87th. Big winner, big comeback for Man City, where it looked like they just needed to wake up. Dutch champions Feyenoord hosted Atletico Madrid. The hosts would go down after a bad own goal. Then Atletico would double their lead when Hermosa would score a ridiculous volley. It was a nice goal. Weaver gave the Dutch side hopes when he'd score a header, but those dreams would get shattered when 5 minutes later Feyenoord would get another own goal. Disaster in the Netherlands as Atletico get the 3-1 win. Swiss side Young Boys hosted Red Star, and they'd take the 2-0 win. It was the only Young Boys' third ever win in the Champions League group stage. Shakhtar Donetsk would skunk Belgian side Antwerp, and Lazio would host Celtic, skunking them 2-0. The Wednesday matchups were pretty wild. In Istanbul, you had a big game between Galatasaray and Manchester United, and it was a great start for Man U. Garnacho and Fernandez each scored. Man U was up 2-0 by the 18-minute mark. Then Hakeem Ziyech would sneak one through the wall on a free kick and catch Onana, the keeper for Man U, way off guard, and it would go into the net. 10 minutes in the second half, Scott McTominay would show off his hustle, scoring a nice goal for Man U, putting them up 3-1. Then the 62nd minute, Ziyech shot would get mishandled again by Onana. All he'd do is grab it, and he just whoop right into his net. Suddenly it was 3-2. And then Ziyech would get on the distributing side 10 minutes later when he'd hit Arctic Glue for the equalizer. It's a game Man U should have had, but I don't want to put the blame on the keeper Onana, but those errors were huge, and this could maybe keep them from advancing. Like, this would have made a big deal if they won this game. The fact they ended with a draw, like I said, it could hinder their chances of getting to the knockout stages. Going to Spain, Sevilla hosted PSV. This was a wild one. The Spanish side would go ahead off a Sergio Ramos goal. Then early in the second half, Yusuf En-Nesyri would double the lead. And then things would swing a bit here. Sevilla striker Lucas Ocampos, with 30 minutes to go in the game, would lose his cool. First, he'd get a yellow card for dissent. Then 3 minutes later, he'd go in with a wild challenge, prompting a second yellow card, putting his side a man down. This would wake up the Dutch side. Ismail Saiberi would take a ridiculous volley. It was a perfect hip swivel, putting it in the corner. What a volley. If you haven't seen that one, check it. 81st minute, PSV would put another dangerous ball in the box. This time would be an own goal. And then American substitute Ricardo Pepi would come in and score the game-winning header. Outrageous comeback. 3-2 for PSV to come all the way back was huge. Then Bayern Munich would host Copenhagen. That'd be a scoreless draw. Big result for the Danish side. You'd have Clash of Titans in the Spanish capital with Real Madrid hosting Italian champions Napoli. The visitors would go ahead early, too, with Giovanni Simeone scoring in the 9th minute, but that would only last minutes when Rodrigo would smash a beauty of a goal for Real Madrid. Jude Bellingham would follow that up with getting another goal. That guy's been on a hot streak since joining the Spanish side. And Guisa would tie the game up just before halftime. You're like, man, this is a good game. And then the 84th minute, youngster Nico Paz would take a shot from way out. He'd have a last-second bounce just in front of the keeper, kind of fooling him. So then Real Madrid would be up, and then Joselu would give the final nail in the coffin with a stoppage time goal. Real Sociedad would dominate the possession and shots, but they'd be held to a scoreless draw against Salzburg. Braga would host Union Berlin, and the Portuguese side would go down a man early when defender Niakate would get given a straight red. Berlin would score soon after, with Robin Gosens putting the team ahead. But that in the second half, Union Berlin's season of disaster just continues when a bad giveaway would set up Diallo, who would score and tie the game up, and that's how it would end. Arsenal would be hosting Lens, and they had lost previously to the French team 2-1 earlier in the campaign, and they took their anger out on them this time. Arsenal would win 6-0, 6 different goal scorers, so yeah, that was pretty big. And then the last one of the Champions League week, you had Benfica playing Inter Milan. And Benfica's João Mario would get a hat-trick within the first 34 minutes. So they'd be up 3-0 at halftime. And whatever Inter did at halftime, it worked. They'd have 2 goals within 7 minutes of each other. And then they'd get a penalty later in the half, and Alexis Sanchez would score, tying the game and securing the point. For Benfica, they don't know what hit them in the second half. But like I said, there's only one match left now in Champions League group play. Those games will take place December 12th, 13th. Group A, Bayern have already clinched their spot, but Copenhagen, Galatasaray, and even Man U are still alive. They need a lot of things to go their way, but they're still in it. Arsenal clinched Group B, and it looks like PSV should join them, but Lens has a very slim chance of winning. Again, they need things to go their way like Man U. Real Madrid have clinched Group C, and it looks like Napoli will be joining them unless Braga beats Napoli in the last game by like 4 goals. So I don't think they're going to be advancing. Group D, you already have Real Sociedad and Inter Milan advancing. They play each other in the last game to decide who wins that group. Group F, Dortmund is advancing, but then it's kind of weird after that, because if PSG smash Dortmund in their last match, they have a chance to leapfrog them and win the group. However, if Dortmund beat PSG, that opens the door for either Newcastle or AC Milan. Whoever would win that game would potentially advance. So that's where the most drama is. Group G has Man City and Leipzig advancing. H, you have Barcelona advancing. And it's a question of who will be joining them. Porto hosts Shakhtar Donetsk, and they have a 5-goal difference advantage. So if there's a tie, Porto will go on. But if Shakhtar goes into Portugal and wins, they'll be advancing. So lots of drama in that last Champions League match coming up. But sticking with footy, we go to England. There's some pretty good proper matches over the weekend. Brentford hosted Luton Town and smashed them. Arsenal had a nervy ending to a 2-1 win over Wolves. Burnley smashed fellow promoted club Sheffield United 5-0, giving Burnley their first home win of the campaign. Nottingham Forest had more possession, but Everton had the only goal. Dwight McNeil would score to give them Toffees the road win. Newcastle hosted Man U in a big match. We get only one goal, come from Anthony Gordon in the second half, but the Geordie side looked the better team that game. Chelsea had a great start against Brighton. After 21 minutes, they were up 2-0, but then Brighton would get one back, and a Conor Gallagher red card would open the game up here. Brighton would put on some pressure, but Chelsea would get a penalty and score. Brighton would get a stoppage time goal to make it nervy, but big win for Chelsea. And then one of the matches of the weekend, Liverpool and Fulham. A fury of goals would have the game tied at 2 going into halftime. Then the Cordova Reed would put Fulham up in the 80th minute, and you're like, hey, Fulham might steal this. But in the 87th, Japanese national Endo would score on a beautiful curling kick. Then a minute later, Trent Alexander would score the winner. He's been playing really well. But what a comeback for Liverpool there in the last 10 minutes. Real exciting game. My West Ham played Crystal Palace. We jump out to an early lead. Mohamed Kudus, man, he's been playing great since we got him. It sucks we're going to lose him probably to the African Cup of Nations when that comes up. But Crystal Palace would equalize in the second, and that's how the game would end there. Bournemouth looked like they were going to get a win over Aston Villa until the 90th minute. Ollie Watkins would score a nice goal to equalize and secure the point. Last game of the Premier League weekend featured Man City hosting Tottenham. This one was a doozy as well. Tottenham would score 6 minutes in when Son would get a goal. That would only last 3 minutes when a free kick would ricochet off Son into his own net for an own goal. Phil Foden would score a nicely set up goal. Wonderful passing to give City the lead at halftime. But then Lo Celso would tie it up on a beautiful strike into the corner. And then Jack Grealish scored in the 80th, and you're like, here we go, man. City's won it again. And Kulusevski would score in a wonderful header to equalize the game again, finishing the game in a draw, avoiding another loss for Tottenham. So that was big for them. And yeah, after 14 matches, you got Arsenal. Arsenal leading the league. Liverpool and Man City just behind them. And then rounding out the top 4 is Aston Villa. It's having a great start to the season. Going to Germany for the Bundesliga, you had some pretty big matches. Cologne beat Darmstadt. Bochum picked up a big home win over Wolfsburg. Leipzig beat Heidenheim. Mönchengladbach took down Hoffenheim. And Stuttgart stunked Werder Bremen. Freiburg won on the road against Mainz, and Augsburg beat Eintracht Frankfurt. But the most hyped up game was Bayern Leverkusen hosting Dortmund. Dortmund would score 5 minutes in, but Victor Boniface would cancel that in the 79th minute off a nice setup. And there'd only be one other draw during the weekend here. And Bayern Munich's match versus Union Berlin was supposed to go on, but it was postponed due to the weather. They've had some pretty bad snow over there. So with all that said, Bayern Leverkusen lead the league. They have a 3-point lead over Bayern Munich, who are now a game behind after this postponement they had. Stuttgart and Leipzig round out the top 4, with Dortmund just on the outside looking in. La Liga, going to Spain, we had some good matches. La Palma beat Getafe, skunked them, caught them off guard. Girona needed some help, some late-game heroics by Stuani, who scored 2 goals in 6 minutes to give the comeback win over Valencia. Athletic Bilbao skunked Rayo Vallecano. Real Madrid shut out Granada 2-0. The most anticipated game of the week was between Barcelona and Atletico Madrid. Former Atletico star João Felix would score a nice goal in the 28th, just chipping it over the keeper. That'd be the only goal in the game as Barcelona take the big win. Other games were all draws. You had Osasuna, Real Sociedad drawing, Sevilla and Villarreal tying. Celta Vigo plays Cádiz on Monday to wrap up the weekend games. But right now Real Madrid and Girona sit atop the league. Real Madrid's got it on goal difference, and just behind them is Barcelona, who leapfrogged Atletico Madrid for that spot. It's very tight at the top of the Spanish league there. In Italy for the Serie A, you had some regular games that no surprises. Juventus took down Monza, Lazio skunked Cagliari, AC Milan beat up on Frosinone, Fiorentina skunked Salernitana, and Roma was down a goal to Sassuolo until a red card by Bologna really inspired the Italian capital side. They'd get 2 goals in the last 25 minutes of the game to come back and get the win. In the biggest match of the weekend, apparently, Inter Milan went into Napoli, except Napoli was not ready for that. They got crushed 3-0. Torino plays Atalanta, which should be a good match on Monday. And then the other league matches all ended in draws. Inter Milan sit atop the league. Juventus, Milan, and Roma just behind them. With that big loss to Inter Milan, last year's champions, Napoli have fallen out of the top four. Going to the French league, Ligue 1. You had Reims starting the week off beating Strasbourg. Lens and Lyon played one of the most entertaining games. Lyon would equalize in the 72nd minute, only for Frankowski to get his second of the game only 2 minutes later to give Lens the win. Nantes would beat Nice. PSG would go a man down when keeper Donnarumma would get a straight card, but they'd prevail, beating Le Havre 2-0. Brestois, Monaco, Lille, and Marseille picked up wins. Toulouse and Lorient would draw. There are 2 makeup games that will be going on this week, but as of now, PSG sit atop Ligue 1. Nice, Monaco, and Lille just behind them. Going to the NHL, Patrick Kane signed a 1-year deal with Detroit Red Wings, around 2.75 prorated, so that's a pretty good contract for him. He took some time to select after hip resurfacing injury. So, we'll see when he goes with the Wings, but it looks like they're trending in the right direction. The biggest news over the week was with Kane's old team, the Chicago Blackhawks. Everyone, I'm sure, has heard the whole Corey Perry fiasco. He was placed on unconditional waivers for the purpose of contract termination, but once the internet got a hold of that, it blew up. It was circulating that Perry had hooked up with number 1 overall pick Connor Bedard's mom. And, people doing Twitter math. Oh, there was a mom's trip here. And, it spreads like wildfire. But, of course, there was no truth to any of that. It's just another reminder not to read everything you read or believe everything you read. But the Blackhawks have said it's a workplace matter. It indicated it did not involve criminal activity. Regardless, it's a wild situation. We'll see what happens with Perry, where he ends up. He said he's been working with experts in mental health and substance abuse fields, so hopefully this helps him out. But with all that said, there was actual hockey being played on the ice. Golden Knights have won 2 in a row after dropping 3 in a row before that. They seem to be back on track, back to their normal ways, leading the Western Conference. Canucks still a big surprise. They just can't seem to string off some multiple wins in a row. It's loss, win, so that's kind of tough. Don't look now, but maybe the Oilers coaching switch up has inspired things. They're 4 in a row now. They're doing it in convincing fashion, so look out, Oilers fans. Your team's starting to look how they're supposed to. The Avalanche have been slumping a little of late. They've lost 3 in a row. The Stars and Jets are nipping at their heels in that division. The Coyotes have been rolling a bit here. They've won 4 in a row. Out east, the Rangers and Bruins are still looking like the beast of the East. The Lightning have slumped a little bit. It's kind of opened the door for other teams to get ahead of them. Like I mentioned last week, after the Bruins and Rangers, the East is very wide open. A short winning or losing streak could have you in a totally different spot in the standings, just like that. I mentioned the Lightning have lost a few here in a row, but that hasn't stopped Nikita Kucherov. He leads the league in points at 40. Brock Boeser of the Canucks leads the league with goals at 17. Just behind him is Florida's Sam Reinhart and Toronto's Austin Matthews at 16. Vegas's goalie Aiden Hill leads the league in goals against average and save percentage. CFL news, Saskatchewan Roughriders announced they agreed to terms with former Argonauts defensive coordinator Corey Mace. So congrats to the new coach of the Riders there. Going to college basketball. It's kind of cool. They had an ACC-SEC challenge where they'd have teams, just a big kind of tournament. Well, not a tournament, a one-off between ACC conference and SEC conference teams. And Georgia Tech would give Mississippi State their first loss of the year. South Carolina would beat Notre Dame. Syracuse beat up LSU, including a huge dunk by Judah Mintz, where the commentator was like, just a facial, make me a bicycle. Which is, you don't hear that every day. Is that basically like, I don't know. That was interesting. Missouri would take down Pitt. Kentucky would beat a higher-ranked Miami team. Ole Miss beat up on NC State, and Clemson beat Alabama. So after this ACC challenge, the SEC were up 4-3. So you'd have more games. Virginia would surprise Texas A&M. Wake Forest would beat Florida. First time they did that since '95. UNC would win a real high-scoring affair against a tough Tennessee team. It sucked to Volunteers guard Dalton Knecht. He was taken out. He was 37 points and 6 boards. He was feeling it, and him leaving the game really impacted it. But the Tar Heels had 3 guys over 20 points. That's tough to beat at the collegiate level. Boston College would beat up on Vanderbilt. Auburn would beat Virginia Tech pretty easy. Georgia and Florida State, a potential football matchup. Nope. Went to Georgia in a 2-point game. Arkansas would shock Duke with a 5-point win. And it was first to 8 would win the challenge. But of course, we finished with 7 wins apiece for each. ACC has some extra teams, so this year Louisville wasn't involved. Next year they'll play and someone else will play. Sticking with the men's side, there were some other non-challenge games that were pretty good. Florida Atlantic beating Liberty. Creighton got a good win over Oklahoma State. Houston State undefeated with a big win over Xavier. Kansas won a squeaker over UConn, soon to be former number one. They won't be number one now. Purdue lost to Northwestern 92-88. Marquette went down to Wisconsin. Drexel went down to Villanova. And Georgia Tech gave Duke their second loss in a row. Oh, and UNC Wilmington beat Kentucky. So that's just crazy. Gonzaga beat USC. But some good news for USC is LeBron James' son, has been cleared to make a full return to basketball. He suffered a cardiac arrest 4 months ago at practice, so he'll have to go through some final evaluations, but it'll be good to see him back on the court. Clemson beat Pitt, stay undefeated. Hopefully that gets them ranked. They weren't even ranked. James Madison stays undefeated as well. Purdue and Marquette, like I said, taking those losses this weekend should shake up the rankings that are coming out today. I'm guessing Arizona should jump to number one. They're still undefeated, and hopefully Houston can get a little more respect and bump up there too. On the women's side in college, you had the same thing, ACC, SEC tournament. Florida would start it right off for the SEC, getting a win over Georgia Tech. Notre Dame needed a nice comeback win to take down Tennessee in a very big matchup. NC State remained undefeated, giving Vanderbilt their first loss of the season. The Hurricanes stayed undefeated, giving Mississippi State their first loss of the season. And Louisville would cap the night off, beating Ole Miss. So ACC were up 4-1. Really big start for them, Florida being the only win for them. Thursday, you'd have Duke beating Georgia. Virginia would beat Missouri. Arkansas pounded Florida State. Kentucky would get a 2-point win over Boston College. Syracuse over Bama. South Carolina over UNC. That was a really good game. Texas A&M beat down Wake Forest. LSU stuck it to Virginia Tech. Big news in that game was Angel Reese returning. Still hasn't been said why she missed those games this year for the Tigers, but it's good to see her back in the lineup. Then the last game of that day was Auburn beating Clemson. So much like the men's side, this series ended at a 7-7 tie. Pitt didn't play this year for the women's because, again, ACC has more teams. There were non-challenge games going down, and, again, some good ones. Ole Miss would drop another game, this time the Southern Miss. Colorado looked good, bouncing back in a big win over Air Force. Rhode Island shocked Princeton in a 2-point win. South Carolina and Duke featured 2 great coaches that thrived in the WNBA. You had Dawn Staley going up against Kara Lawson. It's pretty tight and late until South Carolina flexed those muscles and ended up winning by 16. Camila Cardoso, another double-double, carried that team. She's a beast for them. You had big matchup between UConn and Texas would surprise UConn. First time Texas has beaten UConn in women's hoops, and Texas remains undefeated while giving UConn their third already. This Gonzaga team, they just beat Stanford, giving them their first loss of the season. So this should really mess up all the rankings. I imagine South Carolina and UCLA will be tops, but from there, there's going to be some shuffling. If you want NBA stuff, I drop an NBA episode every week, recapping what went down. There were no games on Sunday, if you noticed that. The in-season tournament quarterfinals go down Monday and Tuesday. Regular season play will continue Wednesday. In-season tournament semifinals on Thursday. Regular season game Saturday. Then you'll have the first ever NBA in-season tournament final on Saturday. It'll be the only game of the night in the NBA. But yeah, if you want more NBA hoops talk after this episode, go to my page, check it out. Drop it every week. That was a weird wing. My eye stuck closed. That's not good. But anyway, we had a crazy big boxing match over the weekend. Ryan Garcia and Oscar Duarte. Garcia was in control for a while, but it looked like Duarte was starting to gain some momentum and come back. Then Garcia would tag him with a nice left hook to the temple that had Duarte's legs looking like jelly. Garcia saw that and went with a fury of punches, right hook, uppercut, dropping Duarte to the canvas on one knee, and ref counted the 9. He stood up. They called the match. Boom. Garcia takes the win, moves to 24-1. His only loss coming earlier this year to Gervonta Davis. So big change for him. Nice needed a bounce back win, and we'll see who Garcia fights next after that. But that's the week in sports, and I thought, where am I going to go from there? Then I was thinking that Ryan Garcia boxing match. Growing up in Warman, there was not a lot of things to do, you know. You can drink or do whatever, I guess, wander. But one thing me and the boys like doing, like having some drinks, and we box. Find a good spot and get her down there, you know. I'll have to talk to my boy Scrads, get some video, see if I can put it up on the page. But yeah, we'd have our spots. The Warman hockey rink, as mentioned in last episode's short. That was a good spot. You'd go there, and there would be a little light outside on the exterior doors where you can throw down with enough light. Still thinking back, it was pretty fucking dark, but, you know, it'd be enough light and get your gloves on. I don't even know who brought the gloves, but they were always there. I'm going to guess Brad. Safe guess, Brad. But, yeah, have the gloves out, and, yeah, we'd pull them out and put up your dukes, you know. It wouldn't... No one ever got really hurt, but, you know, there'd be blood sometimes. You'd feel pretty rattled, and none of it would be very skill boxing, just haymakers coming, big wind-up and swings. No jabs or anything technical, just swinging for the fences. A bunch of home run derby boxing matches. No bells unless someone went ding, 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 ding. That was about it. But, yeah, it'd be pretty good. We try to throw down in houses once in a while, but it wasn't always that good and indoors, right? There was one time, though, my parents took my Oma to Germany. She hadn't been back in decades, so it's really cool how they were taken back there, and I was going to, like, you know, look after the house, feed the dogs. So, of course, we thought we'd move some furniture and have a boxing match in the ring. And by ring, I mean living room. And we'd have one person just guard the TV. TV was very protected in our home, so we'd guard that, make sure nothing would happen. And yeah, we'd just throw down, you know. And my cousin Adam was from England, and he was down visiting. He was involved in a match. It'd get pretty heated, and, you know, people would have to break it up because, you know, it'd be fun until you got tagged, like, on the nose or something, and it would be like, rank, you know, rage. Yeah, let's fucking rage. But yeah, it'd get pretty intense. You hit a nose and suddenly you get angry, and you break it up and throw down. I remember one big fight. It might have been with Levi. Shout out to Levi Osler in the house, and you could hear my brother in the background like, "Kill him, Rennie! Kill him!" It was you know, it was fun. Good boxing times, right? I'm sure everyone did this, right? Yeah, but good times might be a reason why we have head problems now or headaches. But hey, we survived. It was fun. We'll chalk it up as bonding. Yeah, that's the story. A little wild this time, but sorry. Well, we didn't wreck the living room, by the way. It all worked out. But that's another one. That's another podcast in the books here, guys. 39. Jeez, just trucking along. Thanks for coming along, and another good week of sports ahead of us here. Hope you guys all enjoy it, and take care. Ren City out.